everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be going over my third preliminary winter forecast. So in this forecast, I'll be pretty realistic with my forecast. I know a lot of people do use the below average, above average format, and I do sometimes also, but I have noticed throughout my forecast that sometimes it can confuse some people when it does come to that. So we're going to be a little bit different today. We're just going to be saying bitter cold, cold, we're just going to be saying anywhere from warm to cold. We're not going to be saying above average, below average. We are going to be saying normal. But in this forecast, I'm just going to try to be a little bit more straightforward. You're going to see cold, you're going to see warm, you're going to see wet, you're going to see dry. So that's kind of that's my goal for today. I do hope y'all do understand it a little bit more. I'm trying to get the best possible outcome of this forecast. Also, we do get a lot of new people in these forecasts, so if you do go on to enjoy today's video, consider subscribing and leaving a like down below. Once again, if you are new, welcome to my channel. Of course, we do weather-related content. If you do enjoy that, you will enjoy this channel. I do hope that you do enjoy it. It has just cooled down in my area. If many of you do not know, I did not make any videos almost this whole week just because the weather pattern has not been too crazy. This is actually filmed on the Saturday. Y'all might be seeing this later on, but I did not film pretty much all last week just because it was so hot here. It was like almost 100 degrees almost every single day, record temperatures the whole time. But it's finally cooled down, highs in the 50s today. It was really nice, and I'm a little bit more motivated and ready for winter. I am really so ready for it, and let's go ahead and get into this forecast. Okay, so we're going to start with the temperature forecast. So you can see right here, we're going to start with the pink. That is where we're going to be seeing bitter cold conditions. So this is along that Rocky Mountain range, and you can see across a lot of the northern tier of the United States, across the Dakotas, northern Nebraska, also parts of Iowa, parts of Minnesota, also Montana. You can see moving into Wisconsin, into parts of Michigan, parts of northwestern Pennsylvania. Right here, we'll be seeing that snowpack from, when we do get those lake effect snow moving in. I do expect quite a bit this year from those warm waters of the Great Lakes. When you have more of that warm water, you have more moisture, and when you have that cold air in place, you see more snow. So it's going to be across parts where you do see that lake effect snow across parts of New York, even across here. I do think we see some across here. I'm not too familiar with the area, but if you are in any of these lake effect regions, do expect pretty cold conditions because you will have that snowpack pretty down. You will have that, and you also have that really cold air on top of it, which is coming down from Canada this year, and we're going to be seeing bitter cold conditions across this whole peak area, and also across those highest elevations. We'll be seeing cold conditions, and then in those lowest elevations, and then you'll be so high up, you'll be way colder than them. So that is what we're looking at in those pink areas. As we do move into your blue, that'll be your medium blue, of course. That'll be your cold conditions. So here we'll be seeing really cold conditions. I'm not going to say negatives, but it'll be pretty cold, pretty consistently cold. Now, across sometimes it could get a little warm in these regions, but most of the time it will be pretty cold. This is a big chunk of the U.S. We usually do see really cold conditions here. This is not a very uncommon winter. It's pretty normal. It's not La Nina or El Nino. It's kind of just that winter. The more north you go, the more cold it is. Higher elevation you go, the more cold it is. More low in elevation you go, it's warmer. And then the more south you go, it's warmer. That's just kind of how it is this year. But in those blues, you're pretty cold. I did include the areas right off of the Rocky Mountains, and also parts of the Sierra Mountains where we could be seeing cold conditions as always. But the big chunk of the U.S. is going to be across the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, and across a lot of the central United States. Pretty cold conditions in place. Get ready. It'll be a pretty brutal winter. As we do move it into your light blue, that is your warm and cold at times. So this is your flip-flop pattern. Anywhere in this light blue, just expect a big difference. Now, across the west, in those, you can see across parts of the west right here, in those warm and cold at times, you'll probably see more cold than warm, but you will have those, consistent warm blasts possibly coming through. So it'll be pretty warm and cold at times. Now, as you get on the central and eastern side of this, we'll have to see. It's a mix-up right now, but warm and cold at times is definitely what we are looking at in these lighter blue regions. As we do move into your white, that is where we are going to be seeing normal conditions. So here is just where we'll be, just normal conditions, what you usually do see. Just nothing too different than usual. As we do move into these yellow regions, this is where I'd expect mild conditions. So here, anywhere from probably 50 probably somewhere in the 50s to 60s possibly. That is what we're looking at when it does come to this. Just mild conditions, not too hot, just kind of in the middle. We will see our colder side of the winter in some of these regions, especially across the west where you do have that yellow. We will see our colder side, but definitely mild conditions here. Now, as we do move into those warm conditions, that'll be across your orange. Here's where we'll probably see anywhere from 60s to maybe even 70s, maybe even 80s across Florida especially. But if you're across these other regions, across parts of Texas, parts of southern Arizona, parts of California, here, just expect some pretty warm conditions. Of course, you will see those cooler temperatures at times, but it'll be pretty warm when we do look back at this year. This is not too different than usual, but, it's a little different across the west and parts of the west. Okay, as we do move into your precipitation forecast, we're going to go ahead and start with the darkest green. That's going to be your wettest pattern. So here we'll have a lot of systems coming from Canada, some lows coming off of Colorado, some Gulf systems coming up, some nor'easters. We'll be seeing quite a bit across these regions. Also parts of Western Washington, and maybe even parts of Oregon, especially where Portland is. You just usually do see wet time. You're pretty wet most of the time here, so nothing too different across there. As we do move into your lightest green, that is wet at times. And here, we'll just be seeing, it'll be pretty wet across the whole time, but there will be times where we're a little drier. The storm tracks aren't favoring these regions as much, but if we do get the storm track we've been seeing right now, we've been seeing it quite a bit coming from this region, we might extend these really wet patterns across here, but right now it doesn't look like that track is going to be too big this winter, but I do expect wet at times across here. But if you're anywhere across these greens, just expect pretty wet conditions this year. But pretty big, probably 2/3 of the U.S. will be pretty wet this year for winter. As we do move into your white, that is normal conditions. Once again, here is just what you usually do see, nothing too different, nothing too out of whack. Here, you'll just be seeing normal conditions, what you usually do see, maybe something of everything. Just here, it will, pretty much normal. As we do move into your yellow, that is dry but wet at times. So here's where we'll be mostly dry. But, of course, we may see a few times of the winter where it does get wet. So we're not going to be consistently dry, but we will be pretty dry. But we will definitely be seeing some precipitation, bringing some relief, but not too much relief. But definitely wet at times in this yellow, but pretty dry throughout the whole time. As we do move into your orange, that's where we'll be seeing consistent dry conditions. So here is where we'll probably have very little relief when it does come to a drought. But I do think we could see some precipitation, but maybe once or twice this winter. Nothing too crazy across that orange, but pretty consistently dry across these regions. Probably not little precipitation, if any, and we won't be seeing much at all across here. Neutral patterns really don't favor the west. They really favor the east and the parts of the central United States when it comes to the cold and the wet conditions. So the west, it really isn't your year if you're looking forward to the cold and wet conditions. As we do move across your snow forecast, this is something I haven't really done in my winter forecast. I did want to add it. I do hope y'all enjoy this. So as we do move across the pink, that's where we'll be seeing very snowy conditions. Of course, that's across parts of the Rocky Mountains into the Sierra Mountains. Also across a lot of the northern tier of the United States, across the Dakotas, Minnesota, Montana, Wyoming, also across parts of Michigan, most of Michigan, and across Wisconsin, northern Illinois, northern Iowa. Very snowy conditions here. It'll be a very brutal winter when it does come to that. A lot of snow in these regions. Expect quite a bit. Very snowy across here this winter. Quite a bit of snow. Could see some records. Just very snowy. The more north you go, the higher elevations you go, you're going to be seeing the most snow this year. As we do move across into that darkest blue, I should say, into that darkest blue, pretty big winter storms moving across these regions, especially across the central and eastern half of the United States. This is in those blues, of course, where you do see that darkest blue. You can see this does, once again, it only goes to these blue regions. But we'll see some pretty big winter storms here, probably 2 to 6. That may be our only source of snow. If if it's coming up from the Gulf, if it's coming from the Atlantic, if it's coming from one of those Colorado lows we do get sometimes, if it's coming down from Canada, if we're just seeing, just cold conditions and we do have something in place, we could be seeing that. So, pretty big winter storms across here, especially 2 to 6, possible, maybe even more, we'll have to see. Now, if you do move across these regions across the west, where we do have this, they won't all be winter storms for you. You're in those highest elevations, so you'll have a lot of moisture riding up those mountains and bringing down snow. So not definitely winter storms bringing all your snow, but definitely, pretty big snows when you do get them. As we do move across that medium blue, that'll be where you do see a couple of snows. Nothing too terrible, maybe 2 snows, maybe even 3, but probably somewhere around 2 or 3 snows this winter. So, that'll be across a lot of maybe parts of North Carolina, parts of central North Carolina, also moving into southeastern Virginia. You can see also moving across southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, parts of western Tennessee, northern Texas, parts of Oklahoma, northern New Mexico. Northern New Mexico is a little bit of a toss-up. You do have to remember the mountainous regions across there. You can see across parts of Utah, parts of Nevada. Now, as we do move across here, we're going to have to see maybe 2 to 4 over here. Maybe, I do think we may see quite a bit of snow across here. We're going to have to see. This is a little bit of a toss-up area this winter. We're going to have to see. I would even maybe put you in the blue region. So maybe that darkest blue. So if you're there, just expect quite a bit of snow if you're across here. I just did put you in that couple of snows because it may be a little less this year than usual. But you'll still be pretty snowy across here. Probably put you in that darkest blue. But, let's say a couple snows below average. Let's kind of twist this around and say a couple snows below average across there. But in these other regions, probably just a couple snows this year. As we do move into your lightest blue, that's where we do have possible snow. Probably not too likely. This is mainly where we just never do see snow. Now, you can see across these regions, we do definitely see snow. But there definitely is some snow possible this year. I do think we do have a pretty good possibility here. But here's just where I don't think we're going to be seeing those consistent snows. The lightest blues, I don't think it's going to be too consistent. I do think we may, not have enough cold air in place. We are going to have to watch out and see. But right now, we're going to have to see, especially across this region, we're going to have to see. But you do have to remember, elevation does matter. Elevation does come into play, so we're going to have to be watching that. It'll get more accurate, but right now I'm doing the most accurate possible, but we're going to have to be seeing. But if you're anywhere across this lightest blue, snow is definitely possible, especially the more east you go. It's definitely a possibility, but it's not too big. But now the more west you go across here, I do expect some snows, but we're going to have to see when it does come to those regions. As we do go ahead and move across your overall forecast. So this is something new. I didn't do it on my last one just because I didn't want to get everyone's heart set on something. I just don't want to get you too excited and then this whole thing changes. But I am getting, more confident in my forecast. Since we are getting into October, we have 2 months left until December, so there still is a lot of room for change. But I definitely am getting a good idea of what is happening. We are starting to see this pattern flip, which is, giving me a little bit more certainty into my forecast. So we are doing an overall forecast, and I do hope you enjoy it. This was also in the thumbnail, if you probably already did see this. But as we do move into those lightest greens, that's where we do see damp and cool conditions. So that's mainly just going to be across western Washington into Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington. We usually just see these damp conditions where it's consistently wet, pretty damp. A lot of people have been saying below average. Some have been even saying above average. Just expect damp conditions, what you always just see year round, and then cool conditions because you always have that rain coming down, so there's not much heat that can get in there. Okay, as we do move across those darkest greens, is where we'll be seeing warm and wet conditions. So here is where I do expect definitely some rainfall to be coming from, parts of the Atlantic, parts of the Gulf, but I do think we will be seeing quite a bit of rainfall coming in here. However it does get in here, I do think in these darkest screens, warm and wet conditions, of course it'll be warm here, it's always warm here, but I do think we will see some wetter conditions moving in. This year it's not been too wet across these regions. We haven't saw too many tropical systems moving through, but this winter I do expect it to be pretty warm and wet. As we do move across your orange, it's warm and dry. Here we're not expecting much rainfall, and it's going to be pretty warm. So this is the region where I'm concerned for you getting into a drought. I'm very concerned for these regions, so we're going to have to be watching. As we do move across your white or unmarked areas, that's where we do see normal conditions. Here's just what you usually do see, or maybe it's a toss-up. We're going to have to see maybe equal chances is what you want to call it, where we don't really know. You can see normal, below average, above average. of anything, but here is just where I do think we should see pretty normal conditions, or it's kind of a toss-up, but mostly normal conditions. As we do move into your lightest blue, this is where I do think we have the best chance of that flip-flop pattern and possible ice storms. These ice storms will be coming off of those winter storms north of you, so this is where you won't have, that coldest air in place to where you can get that consistent snow. You may get one this year, but mostly ice storms across here, and it'll be warm, cold at times, just kind of a flip-flop all over the place in this lightest blue. As we do move into your darkest blue right here, you can see cold and fringlet snows. This is where we are going to be seeing a lot of those winter storms coming into place, those Colorado lows, those Canada storms, those Gulf storms, those nor'easters coming in. We do see quite a bit. We could see some coastal storms across the northeast and mid-Atlantic too. So we do have a lot of opportunities for this to be pretty, be seeing quite a bit of snow, especially across here. I do think we could definitely be seeing the most of our snows out of this blue area, but I do expect quite a bit of snow to come through here. Some systems from the west possible, but especially those Colorado lows and those stuff coming down from Canada. So that's what we're watching. And here, just consistent cold, maybe some warm days, but pretty consistently cold across these regions too. As we do move into your pink, that's where we see Arctic blasts and crazy snow. So here in these Arctic blasts, we could be getting into those negatives. It's going to be very, very cold. And a lot of these regions, elevation does come into place across those Rocky Mountains, the Sierra Mountains. We're just seeing those really cold conditions like usual, negatives, really possible, and then crazy snow, a lot of snow. These are the regions where we usually do see 100 to 200 inches of snow a year, definitely more than that too, especially across a lot of the Sierra Mountains, the Rocky Mountains, just north of it, just across these regions we do see quite a bit of snow. This is not too uncommon. Usually we do see this through a lot of winters, but this year I do expect to see a lot of snow. It'll be causing a lot of interruptions and a lot of Arctic blasts coming down from Canada, so that is my main concern. So I do hope y'all enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider subscribing and leaving a like down below. If you are new and you did enjoy this video, I'm really glad you did. And once again, consider subscribing and leaving a like down below. I would really like it if you did join our community. If you didn't like the video, that is absolutely fine. It might have not been your style. That is absolutely fine. But if you didn't, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. It's fine. It's fine if you don't enjoy my videos. That is absolutely fine. Because, not everyone likes a forecast. But I hope you did enjoy this forecast if you're coming back. Or if you're a new subscriber, possibly. But I do hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, consider subscribing and leaving a like down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day or night. Whenever this is out, just have a great time.